Let's get to the big three.
Number 3.
The Schumer shutdown strategy might be the biggest cell phone that we've seen in Washington in an awful long time. This whole discussion, it has no way out for Senate Democrats, so I think it'll go on a while.
It will. Shutdown insanity. Both sides locked in their positions as Trump assumes more power and his OMD director slashes more jobs while paying our troops for now. Chuck Schumer, I have news. You are not winning, and the American people are clearly losing.
Number 2.
And that is the stuff of dictatorships.
He has definitely decided he's going to use the power of the federal government to attack American cities and the people who live there.
In a country that is losing its democracy, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Complain?
Yeah, so when you get ICE, Border Patrol, ATF, as well as local authorities, they call that authoritarianism, or is he trying to clean up the streets? ICE under fire by cartels, Dems, activists you just heard, while forging forward and making big progress, even in Chicago, even in Portland.
Number 1.
We have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently.
Yep, Gaza peace deal moves forward as Hamas takes aim at would-be collaborators and still has yet to return 21 hostage bodies as the world hails the Trump-led end to the war and the freeing of the hostages, but haters will hate. Senator Jon Husted joins us now of Ohio. Welcome back, Senator.
Great to be with you.
Senator, I understand the only thing different about today's vote and ending the lockdown is that the Majority Leader Thune is going to put to a vote funding the whole Defense Department for the year. Just isolated the whole Defense Department, R&D, everything on down. Is that true, and would you vote for it?
Well, I'm hopeful that we'll do something like that, because if the Democrats during the Schumer shutdown don't want to run government, then we should just move on without them. And funding our Defense Department is certainly an important priority for us. So I hope it's on the floor, and if it is, I'll vote for it.
All right. Let's also talk about overall, what do people of Ohio tell you about the shutdown?
They're frustrated, particularly, around our military bases and things like that. I mean, look, these are families who may not get paid, and they have young children, they have needs, and they are serving our country. And because Chuck Schumer is playing political games, they're not going to get a paycheck. And I know that frustrates them. It frustrates me. But I also don't hear anybody saying, hey, capitulate either, that we should give in to what Chuck Schumer's unreasonable demands are. I mean, literally, what he wants us to vote on would open the pathway to pay for health care for illegal immigrants. It would say, hey, you don't have to work in return for your health care benefits under Medicaid. All of these things that undermine the American healthcare system. That's what he wants us to vote on, and we're not going to capitulate to that. He needs to pass his clean CR like he's done 13 times when Joe Biden was president and serve the American people. Chuck Schumer thinks he's winning, but the American people are losing, and ultimately he will pay the price for the frustration that the American public is going to feel in time over this.
So Reuters did a poll and says 67% blame Republicans, 63% blame Democrats. Does it show he's winning?
I will tell you this. I don't know what the polling numbers are. In reality, I think most people don't have a lot of information about the details. But every time I talk to people out there, you ask about what people in Ohio think. I asked a crowd I was with the other night. I said, should we cave into Chuck Schumer's demands, or should we, pass a clean CR and keep working to serve the American people? None of them wanted me to back down on it, and I'm not going to do that. But by the way, I voted 8 times to keep the government open.
Right.
So have my colleagues. So have 3 Democrats have come along with us. Giving in. I'm number 100. I'm like the newest member of the U.S. Senate. And what happens too many times around the legislative process is that we cave in to bad behavior. And once you start rewarding people who act like babies and selfishly, then you're going to encourage that to happen in the long run. And I think we should take a stand on this one and just go about doing the work of serving the American people, and the Democrats will come along when they will.
So Speaker Johnson speaking again today. Here's what Newt Gingrich, who knows a thing or two about shutdowns, recommended. Cut 30.
The number one thing for Republicans to remember is that other than Reagan, who was a former Democrat, and Trump, who's a former Democrat, Republicans generally don't communicate very well. And we have the arguments. I think Mike Johnson's doing a good job. But every Republican should learn the key arguments, repeat them ad nauseum, stop reporters, as the vice president did brilliantly the other day, when they're saying falsehoods, just cut them off and say that's false.
So that's the advice. Is it good advice?
It's very good advice. Yeah. They want to change the subject. We need to focus it on the fact that this is the Schumer shutdown. It is caused by Chuck Schumer not allowing Democrats to vote along with Republicans on this. The Democrats' proposal, 47 votes. We've had 55 votes for the Republican proposal. We just need 5 more Democrats to move on.
Senator, how do you feel about your prospective race against Sherrod Brown?
Hey, I'm an Ohio guy. He's a D.C. guy. He was elected 50 years ago, spent 32 years in Washington. He is just too liberal for Ohio, supporting transgender surgeries for minors, supporting boys playing girls' sports, allowing open borders, all of those things that Ohioans literally just rejected him on. Last November, when he lost to Bernie Moreno, 8 months later, he wants to come back. I'm confident that we'll win, but it'll be a hard fight because you know how the Democrats campaign. They've campaigned tough. They campaign, with a lot more money. I mean, he spent $300 million in the last election cycle and lost, and they will flood the airwaves with lies. But honesty and hard work will prevail, and we will win. But it will be a tough battle.
So yesterday, Instagram announced there'll be 13-year-old restrictions on Instagram. So Meta, Instagram, and I guess Facebook too, but most younger people use Instagram. You have a bill to protect children from AI companion chatbots and sexual content. What is this bill and how is it going to be implemented?
Yeah, well, it's really parental consent for anybody that's underage. We want in the digital world the same thing that we want in the physical world. You can't have adult content. We also want to protect, when you know that it's a minor, from any contemplation of suicidal ideation and all of those kinds of things. This is the next generation. Look, we've seen the results of social media, how it has harmed children greatly. Now we have these chatbots that children are interacting with, that are engaging with adult content and things that are not appropriate for children. All we're saying is that this is no crackdown on freedom of speech. It just says you got to let mom and dad have parental consent. But then when you know it's somebody under 18, that you can't get them information that they're not supposed to have, that you regulate the chatbots to do that. These tech companies, they're so talented in the algorithms that they use for these things. They can easily design chatbots that do this, and we got to protect our kids. We didn't do it with social media. We've got to do it with AI.
Well, yeah. How would it be implemented? You got to get buy-in from all the AI companies?
Well, no, we're just going to set a requirement that they have to do parental consent for children, and then that when they know, and they can easily know these things when they know that somebody's signed up who's under 18 because the parent, gave them permission, they did this, then they can make sure that the chat bot is programmed not to have inappropriate conversations with those children in terms of adult content, suicidal ideation, those kinds of things. And this is important that we do this because we lost. If we knew what social media was going to do to kids in the smartphone era, we would have done this on social media. But now chatbots can be even more powerful tools at becoming friends and collaborators with children, and we don't want to send our children down the wrong path.
Hear you. Good job. I can't see much resistance to this. Hopefully, it'll get some bipartisan buy-in. Is there?
I think there is. Yeah, we just had a hearing in the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee last week, and this issue came up on a bipartisan basis. And I have been reaching out to many of my Democrat colleagues because, look, we all care about our kids. We all don't. We love technology, but we don't want technology to take over our children. We want parents to parent our children, not AI companies or chatbots.
I can agree with that, and maybe even get a co-sponsor out of it, Outside Fetterman. Senator Jon Husted, thanks so much.
Great to be with you.
So Jennifer Say is here, the CEO of XXXY Athletics, author, filmmaker, business executive. retired national champion gymnast, although she might come out and maybe start competing again. Is there a chance, Jen?
No way. My body is
no
broken.
balance beam, no uneven bars?
I can barely walk.
Oh, really?
Days.
Okay. So, Jennifer, and by the way, you made you a CEO of Levi's too, right?
I was the president and almost CEO.
Almost CEO. So now you're launching this brand new brand, and I want to talk about that. But first, you just moved from California to Colorado. Better?
It is better. I moved 4 years ago. People say to me all the time, you just went from, out of the frying pan into the fire. It's the same. I don't think it's the same. I think there's hope for Colorado. There's a real libertarian streak there that you don't have in California.
Because I noticed a couple of years ago, I went to Denver, and first time I saw it was like 20 years ago. They were doing Olympic Sports Festival was out there.
Yeah, because it's in Colorado Springs.
Yeah. And I went out there, I go, wow, Denver's beautiful. It's like they shrink wrapped it every night. And then I went back a couple of years ago and I saw so many empty stores and so much homeless. And people say, you don't want to walk around at night around here.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it is nothing compared to San Francisco how awful, which is where I lived. I mean,
is this mayor helping San Francisco, this new mayor?
Daniel Lurie?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't live there anymore. I mean, I hear both sides. I hear some people saying it's better. He definitely is connected to the business community and knows that needs to be revived.
Yeah, you think?
I mean, there's no downtown. It took 4 or 5 years for them to send people back to work in offices from COVID.
Which is insane.
I mean, when Lurie took office, which was just a few months ago, he just now called for city employees to go back to the office to go to work. So it killed the downtown. All those, local, those lunch shops closed, the restaurants closed, the homeless took over, drug-using homeless took over. 50% of the storefronts closed down and are boarded up in downtown San Francisco.
It's incredible. And now the 49ers have all those injuries on top of that, but unrelated. So Jennifer, the other thing about Colorado in particular, you just were telling me about the misgendering. I thought you were kidding.
No. It's a law now. A law just was signed by Governor Polis. Misgendering is a crime. And there's several applications here. We are actually suing. My business, XXXY Athletics, is suing the state of Colorado because there's this sort of public accommodations. That's the language they use, that an individual is should be free from being misgendered and discriminated against in public. So if I have a pop-up shop and somebody comes into my shop and I say, "Can I help you, sir?" and it is a man in a dress that thinks he's a woman, I could be criminally charged.
That's so insane.
I know. Even Gavin Newsom wouldn't sign a law like this literally he didn't sign a law like this into being. So Colorado's lost its mind. There's several lawsuits against the state on this one.
Yeah.
Because the other application is a child can be taken from the home if a parent does not affirm.
So the kid comes home at 14 years old and says, "I want to be," but the boy wants to be a girl, and the parent says, "No, you're not." They might take the kid. If the school finds out, if Child Protective Services find out, they could. Or in a custody battle, if one parent affirms and the other doesn't. Unbelievable. So we just found out that transgender, the whole thing is plummeting big time. It has a lot to do, I think, with the people waking up and sobering up. Transgender identification in free fall among young Americans. And they just analyzed data from 2025 and compare it. It's down from was down to up 9%, now down to about 3%.
Right. This is youth.
Among youth.
Yeah, it was a trend. And unfortunately, some children permanently altered their bodies.
Too late for them.
Too late for them.
Yeah, but and a lot of them were, for some reason, there's an inordinate amount of celebrities doing this.
It's
Why
like
would that be? To be cool, to show you're tolerant?
It's a big virtue signal. To have a child that is trans and be a celebrity, it's like carrying an Hermes Birkin bag, I think, these days.
Couple of things. Let's talk about your business, XXXY. With it, there's a lot of challenges in the clothing industry in making things here. Have you been able to make things here?
We make our hats in America. We make accessories in America, hats and water bottles. We have an amazing water bottle manufacturer, and we're working really hard to bring more manufacturing for our T-shirts and our performance wear into America. It's tough. There's not a ton of capacity. There aren't a lot of factories, and there's not a lot of capability. there just aren't sewing machine manufacturers here even anymore because all the factories left 25 years ago. So I think there's going to be increasing demand for Made in the USA, and more people are going to build factories, and I think we'll be able to do it. But it's not something you can do overnight.
Well, but that's why the tariffs really affect you guys. How is it affected?
It impacts us for sure, but that's okay. We're not raising prices.
Right. Is it hard? And you would like to, this is what I've heard from CEOs, is they said that we just like to know where it's going. Like not knowing and the change is so hard to budget.
We've just built in increased pricing and assumed slightly lower margins for the time being. We're just starting out. We're only 18 months old. I assume I'm going to gain all of that back with scale.
Yeah.
As my cost of goods goes down with scale, I'll gain all that margin back. And I have strong margins. I'm not going to pass this on to the customer. I'm going to work on figuring it out myself, bringing down my cost of goods, bringing more manufacturing here into the United States, and we'll work it out over the next 2 years.
I also noticed, too, is that people are moving to look at get out of China, and Vietnam might be an alternative.
We don't make anything in China. That's my rule. No. Good. China. There's no transparency. You're not allowed in the factories there. We visit every single factory. We know the people who make our products. We see the working conditions. We feel good about the working conditions. You can't do that in China. For me, that's just a non-starter.
Right.
But Vietnam has great capability in terms of performance, innovation, those fabrics. So we do make some stuff there.
How do you think the administration's doing?
I'm all in.
Yeah. So far,
I'm very
so
happy.
good?
I mean, what just happened in Israel? That's amazing.
I think
it's incredibly sad. There's only 20 remaining hostages alive, but what a gift that they're home.
Right, and some did come home earlier. Just some people, I'm just amazed, will still even find something negative to say. For example, I saw that Martin Sheen, of all people, do we have that clip of Martin Sheen? This is with his advice to President Trump. Well, I know I have it here.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, here it is. Cut 21.
You've got to realize, sir, that you are the biggest nothing in the world. You stop listening to all these people around you, these sycophants who are encouraging you to be your non-human self. Get in touch with that humanity. Stop fussing with your hair. And don't worry about your tie. And stand up straight and speak clearly, not from your throat. Speak from your heart. And start being human. That's what you were made for, not golf. So there you are, Mr. President, with all due respect, sir.
And of course, he played the president, so he's an expert.
Well, yeah, he was on The West Wing, a show which I actually did enjoy. It's insane. They can't grant him the release of the hostages and essentially brokering what we hope will be long-term peace. They can't grant the man this. No one's been able to do it.
I think that also blows people away is on the world stage, they kind of like him. You have these leaders liking him. The Arab world likes him. These Palestinians were chanting his name in Gaza. And then, of course, in Tel Aviv, his approval rating is about 99%.
It makes him crazy.
Right.
Meaning the Americans who hate him. Yeah, it makes him absolutely bonkers. It's hilarious. They cannot understand that people actually respect and like him and find him sort of charming.
So we're going to have a debate tomorrow. There's going to be two debates, but there's going to be a debate tomorrow on the mayor's race. It's going to be Curtis Lewa, it's going to be Andrew Cuomo, and it's going to be Mondami. He's going to be here today speaking with Martha McCallum. What's your take on this race?
Well, I try not to pay too much attention because I don't live here, but and it enrages me. Mamdani's way ahead, 13, 18 points, depending on the poll you look at. I do have two children that live here. So, I do pay some attention.
So they'll be able to vote.
Yes, they're both in their 20s, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law live here. Look, I think he's a horrible candidate, and I don't like Cuomo. I can't stand Cuomo. He was horrible on COVID, as we all know, but I think I would be forced to possibly vote for him if I was here, because I don't think Sliwa has a chance. Mamdani, where do we start? He wants to spend $65 million to allow young people to change their sex, which is impossible. He wants to take taxpayer money to do that. He wants to kill gifted and talented programs in the public schools.
And charter schools.
Which, by the way, that happened in San Francisco, the killing of the gifted and talented, and, just obliterating the magnet schools for academic excellence. It was such a disaster, they had to reverse course. It doesn't work anywhere. Don't you want to give these exceptional children an opportunity? We just want to tell them they can't excel. It's so
Socialists
awful.
and communists
I
don't
know.
see it that way.
And this man went to one of the most elite magnet schools in the city,
Right.
Bronx Science.
Well, living in a rent-controlled apartment.
And now he wants to snatch that ladder up right behind him.
It's crazy. Jennifer, continue success with XXXY Athletics. Hope everyone will go get all your apparel. It's great to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and tell your kids how to vote. All right? Don't be afraid to. Joining us now is Karl Rove, Wall Street Journal columnist, Fox News contributor. Karl, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Karl, first off, what do you think the right move would be in Gaza as Hamas executes different people that have been identified by the IDF as people that they could work with as they try to rebuild that region?
Well, first of all, we don't know if these are people who cooperated with the IDF. All we know is that Hamas decided that these people were the enemies of Hamas and publicly executed them within hours of the 20-point peace agreement. I mean, this isn't a good sign. I mean, the expectation was that they would somehow participate in this, but they're going to be dragged kicking and screaming to fulfill their obligations. They turned over 4 bodies, for example, of dead hostages, and it turns out one of them has, the forensic testing showed is not one of the missing dead hostages. They just found a random body and included it in the delivery to the Israelis.
Here's what Benjamin Netanyahu said. Cut 4.
First, Hamas has to give up its arms, and second, you want to make sure that there are no weapons factories inside Gaza. There's no smuggling of weapons into Gaza. That's demilitarization. We agreed that that's part of the plan. And we also agreed, okay, let's get the first part done. And now let's give a chance to do the second part peacefully, which is my hope. But if not, I think I heard the president speak tonight. He said, listen, they better do it, or, how can I speak for him? He said, all hell breaks loose.
And he's right. And now there's no hostages to contain the IDF.
Yeah. Well, remember, several of the 20-point agreement. One was that Hamas would abandon arms, and that it would also be resolved. All of the parties agreed we're not going to allow them to dominate the new Gaza. We're going to have a transitional government made up of technocrats, but Hamas is out, and we've got 3 things out of the 20 done: the return of the hostages, the release of the 1,700 prisoners that the Israelis had arrested since October 7th, 250 additional lifers, Gazans, and now we're going to have to turn to the tough stuff and the hard stuff. And the hardest thing is going to be to militarize Gaza by getting the Hamas to give up its arms or die by refusing to give up their arms.
And the IDF doesn't leave until an international force comes in, and it can't be from the UN. No, nobody trusts the UN in that area except for Hamas. I want to talk about what's happening to the Virginia race and the Jersey race. First, Abigail Spanberger. She's looked at to be up by 6 or 7 points, but her debate was so hideous at certain points, and she does not answer a question. For example, on Jay Jones, who was found in text messages to be threatening a Republican lawmaker and the family to shoot them, and she was asked, will you at least pull your endorsement? Cut 62.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. We just want to clarify, what you're saying is that as of now, you still endorse Jay Jones as Attorney General.
I'm saying as of now, it's up to every voter to make their own individual decision. I am running for governor. I am accountable for the words that I say, for the acts that I take, for the policies that I have put out.
So this was constant. She would not back off. Was that that would have been an easy one to pull out of. I'm not going to endorse him. It's up to the people to make the decision, but she kept it.
Well, she's endorsed him. She's concerned about black Democrats deserting her if she were to pull her endorsement, but I frankly think she would solidify her standing and end up winning if she did. She's putting herself in dangerous territory by refusing to disavow these comments and disavow his candidacy. Look, this guy, remember, he says, I would put 2 bullets into the Republican speaker's head, even if I had only 2 bullets and, it was Pol Pot, Adolf Hitler, and the Republican speaker, I'd still put 2 bullets into the head of the Republican speaker. And then later talks about how he wants to kill his kids. Now, in between, a Republican colleague whom he's texting this to says, "Stop, please, to stop doing this." And he doesn't withdraw his remarks. He doesn't say, "I apologize." He doubles down by saying, "Okay, now I'm going to go after the kids." So this is a reprehensible human being. He should not be in public office, and he's on the ticket. And she's worried about, losing an important element of the Democratic coalition, black voters in Virginia. But the right thing to do is to say, no, he should not be the Attorney General. And he should get off the ticket. And I don't know, the Commonwealth's law allows a last-minute replacement. But, no, he should not be the Attorney General. The Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the guy's talking about how he would love to put 2 bullets into the Republican House Speaker and kill his family as well, and given a chance to walk it back at the time he did. Now, today he says, "I've made a mistake. I shouldn't have said those things." But this was several years ago, and he's had plenty of time to contemplate. He was confronted by his Republican colleague. "This is wrong. You're doing the wrong thing," and he doubled down.
So I want you to hear another thing that is maybe that makes her more vulnerable. And then there's the men or the boys and girls locker room. She has no answer for this. Cut 64.
Once again, the question was, should transgender girls who are biological males be allowed to use girls' bathrooms and play on girls' sports teams in K through 12? You have 15 seconds to clarify.
In cases across Virginia, I think it's incumbent upon parents and educators and administrators in each local community to make decisions locally.
That's what this is about.
Ms. Earl Sears?
There should never be nude men in locker rooms.
We finally have her saying that, but you voted for that.
Ms. Earl
have
Sears.
You finally
Ms. Earl Sears, you are just
lying.
intruding on
Are
time
we in
here.
agreement now?
So what was accomplished with that exchange to the general voter in Virginia, you hope?
Well, again, that she won't come out and say no. Men shouldn't be allowed into girls' restrooms and participate in girls' sports. She will not be that flat out, and there's a reason why. Remember, to win as a Democrat in Virginia, you have to have a big vote out of Northern Virginia, where the local school districts in Loudoun County and Fairfax and Alexandria and Arlington have in most instances allowed this kind of behavior and defended it. So she's trying not to alienate sort of the left wing of her party, which dominates these school district boards in Northern Virginia. And again, she could say, now I know this has been left up to the local school district, but I disagree with it. I think we have, men, ought not to be in girls' locker rooms or participating in girls' sports. But again, she feels compelled because of the left of her party that she can't come out and say that. So she tries to sort of say, well, I think it ought to be left up to the locals to decide. Well, that's not going to help her either. She is ahead. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is a purple, if not a blue state. We were lucky to win the governorship, lieutenant governorship, and attorney generalship 4 years ago. But, what happens typically in New Jersey and particularly Virginia is that whoever wins the White House then loses the Virginia and most of the time loses New Jersey after that. So the Republicans running uphill. She's the sitting lieutenant governor, but Spanberger's given her some running room here on both of these issues.
So when you look at what's happening in Virginia, Jack Ciattarelli's a really good candidate. He's trying to close the gap. He's got Democratic mayors endorsing him. He's got more energy behind him. And Mikey Sherrill is an extremely weak candidate who doesn't have an agenda, doesn't seem to be able to speak without a script. And a lot of her positions are really causing controversy. She put Jack Ciattarelli back in this race. Do you think there's enough time for him to close any gap that may exist?
Well, he came pretty close last time around running against an incumbent, and Cheryl has not broken with the incumbent. A lot of what Murphy did, she either defends or refuses to condemn. And look, we know that New Jersey has high taxes. It had high taxes for years. The only time they stopped raising taxes is when they have a Republican governor who refuses to sign the bill. But the Democratic governor, made a really stupid decision, which was we're gonna not allow inexpensive natural gas from Pennsylvania to be pumped into the state to power our power plants, and instead we're going to rely upon renewables. And as a result, the people of New Jersey are paying high utility bills as well as high taxes, and she can't break with him on either one of those issues. Now, again, the predisposition of these states in the post-Trump 2024 victory are going to be sort of slightly Democrat than they might otherwise be. But the fact is that both of these candidates in Commonwealth of Virginia and the state of New Jersey leading the Democratic ticket have turned out to be less than effective candidates.
So do you think he can win? Do you think he will win?
I don't know if he will win, but look, I agree with you. Look, the guy's authentic. Say what you will about the guy. He comes across as authentic. And remember, New Jersey made the biggest jump between 2020 and 2024 and moving conservative, moving right of any state in the country. Only New York moved more for Donald Trump between 2020 and 2024. So something's going on there. It's also one of the 30 states where the Democratic registration has dropped while the Republican registration has risen. And both of those add into it a guy who seems to be able to work across ethnic lines and political lines and geographic lines because he is an authentic guy. You look at him and say, you know what, may not agree with the guy on everything, but I like him, and he seems to be earnest and seems to know what it is that he wants to do. And you're right. One of the weaknesses for Cheryl is she cannot articulate a vision in a compelling fashion.
Lastly, on the shutdown, we're now in day 15, and now the president says I'm going to be cutting Democratic programs, and they're cutting thousands of jobs. Cut 28, Senator Eric Schmidt.
But as far as what the government's going to do, the president has made clear, and Russ Vought's made clear what their priorities are, which is they're going to make sure the military members get paid, they're going to make sure law enforcement gets paid. And if we get a little bit further down the road here, there's going to have to be some decisions made because the government's just running out of money. And the Republicans have offered a clean CR, which is usually the exit ramp here, and the Democrats keep saying no. They're way more interested in grandstanding than governing. That's the truth.
So you know what happens, continuing to fund the government while they work it out. They don't want to, the Republicans want to do a continuing resolution, and the Democrats want to redo Obamacare, resubsidize Obamacare. You've seen a lot of standoffs. I don't see either side giving.
Yeah, look, this is going to go on for a little while longer, for somewhat longer, because you're right. The off-ramps are not there. Thune is very smart. And what he's doing by bringing up the defense appropriation, the House has passed 3 of the 12 budget bills that fund the government, and one of them funds defense. And there's a precursor piece of legislation that has to pass the House and Senate called the National Defense Authorization Act. Think of it as laying out the strategy, and then the budget bill funds the strategy. The National Defense Authorization Act passed the Senate by an overwhelming bipartisan majority. I can't remember the number, but it's 80 to a handful, 90 to a handful. So that laid a predicate for passing the defense bill. So he's going to bring up the defense budget bill. And Democrats have got a choice. They either vote to pass this important budget measure, which will sort of begin to add a little bit of trust and collegiality to the process, or they can say, nope, we're going to make this defending America. We're not going to defend America past that budget bill unless you deal with our demands on the Affordable Care Act first. And they're going to put themselves in a deeper hole. I think, frankly, that budget bill has a good chance to pass. Maybe not the first time it's brought up, but I think it has a chance to pass, and that hopefully will start to point both sides towards an off-ramp. Look, let's be honest. These shutdowns, when the Republicans are in power, they demand a clean CR, and Democrats say we're not voting for it. When Democrats are in power, they say we want to have a clean CR, and Republicans are opposed to it. We need to get away from this. We need to stop treating the budget of the largest enterprise on the face of the planet as a political, talking point. And we're now 6 weeks into the fiscal year, and we do not have a budget in place. That's just insane.
Right. And by the way, by not getting an appropriations bill in time, that set the table for this. Just get it done in time. Stop taking off August, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it, Karl Rove.
Thanks for having me on. All the best.
You got it.
Thune is very smart. And what he's doing by bringing up the defense appropriation, the House has passed 3 of the 12 budget bills that fund the government, and one of them funds defense. And there's a precursor piece of legislation that has to pass the House and Senate called the National Defense Authorization Act. Think of it as laying out the strategy, and then the budget bill funds the strategy. The National Defense Authorization Act passed the Senate by an overwhelming bipartisan majority. I can't remember the number, but it was 80 to a handful, 90 to a handful. So that laid a predicate for passing the defense bill. So he's going to bring up the defense budget bill. And Democrats have got a choice. They either vote to pass this important budget measure, which will sort of begin to add a little bit of trust and collegiality to the process, or they can say, nope, we're going to make this defending America. We're not going to defend America past that budget bill unless you deal with our demands on the Affordable Care Act first. And they're going to put themselves in a deeper hole.
So that is the position that Senator Thune is putting out there. I think they're going to vote today. He's the majority leader, and he joins us now. Senator, what do you think of Karl Rove's review of what you're rumored to be willing to do?
Well, Brian, he's kind of got it. Of course, Karl, he's not new to this, but I think he accurately assesses. I mean, getting the defense authorization bill, that authorizes all this, support for national security. It's something we have to do every year, and then the defense appropriations bill actually writes the check that enables all those priorities to be funded. And so we are, this is going to be an opportunity for the Democrats to show whether or not they're serious about what they say about wanting to have a regular appropriations process where we fund the government through what we call regular order, which is, allowing the committees to work, putting bills on the floor, opening up the amendment process. The Democrats are going to have a chance to vote to get on that bill. That vote won't happen today, it'll happen tomorrow. But we'll see where they go.
Have you put out feelers to see if certain Democrats would, you need 60, right?
Correct.
So normally about 95 would vote for it, correct?
Normally that'd be the case. These aren't normal times, as we all know, and there's so much hostility right now. I think a lot of what's driving the Democrats is there's sort of this threshold issue of getting past this big rally on Saturday in Washington, D.C. with all the hostile groups, the Marxist groups and the pro-Hamas wing of the Democrat Party are all going to be here in Washington, and I think the Democrats are reluctant to do much of anything until that group gets here and has their day, and they can all celebrate that they're fighting Trump. But at some point we have to govern the country, and that starts with national security. I've always said that if you don't get national security right, the rest is conversation. You've got to be able to defend the country. And so moving the defense authorization bill last week is really important. The defense appropriations bill, which funds all those things, is what we're trying to tee up this week. So we'll see, where the Democrats are. But I think in the end, if they're sincere about wanting to actually fund the government the old-fashioned way, this is a chance to do it.
Senator Thune, our guest. Senator, so will you have a vote to see if any besides 3 Democrats, if you're going to get together 5, is anyone working to see if some like the Jon Ossoffs, the retiring Gary Peters, anybody might be willing to, or Senator Shaheen might be jump the line?
There are conversations going on, Brian. They're outside of the leadership level. By that I mean not, it's Schumer. It's rank and file Democrats who there's some outreach happening to senators on our side of the aisle, and I'm usually read into those conversations. Where they're talking about a sort of an off ramp or a path out of this, if you will. But I think at the end of the day, they got to vote to open up the government. I mean, this hostage taking has to stop, and the things that they're asking for, $1.5 trillion in new spending. You got all kinds of the provisions in there that would allow illegals to have free health care. Those are all just non-starters. And that's where their leadership is. So I think a real solution and the way out of this is going to come from rank and file Democrats who are tired of sort of following their leadership over the cliff and are ready to make a deal to get the government back open again and get us actually doing the work we need to be doing on behalf of the American people.
Are you in support of the House not being around?
I think the House did what they had to do. They passed this, they sent it to us, and I think right now the play is in the Senate. The House can obviously brought back on a moment's notice, and if there's a reason to do that, I'm sure the Speaker will do that. But in the meantime, the action is in the Senate. We need 5 more Democrats. They will have another chance to vote today to open up the government, and we'll see what happens. Again, I'm hopeful at some point that they're going to come to their senses, but at least at the present time, it seems like a lot of these far left outside groups are having more influence than, in my view, kind of what should be, in the best interest of the American people.
So the OMB director is warning that Trump could be cutting 4,000 jobs across 7 government agencies, with layoffs kicking in on Friday. Your thoughts about that? I know the rumor was that you were caught. You're telling the White House to be cautious about it because it can look callous to say you're just out of a job. Last time when Doge went in, they said you got 6 months, make a choice. Maybe you guys want to leave. Are you for the OMB director going in there, getting rid of Democratic jobs?
Well, I'm for them being strategic about how they do this and using discretion. And yes, I mean, obviously nobody wants to see anybody lose a job, which is why it's so important that we open up the government. But I also understand that the administration, in the case of a shutdown, has a job to do. They've got to try and figure out how to move money around. They move some money around to help pay the troops at least for another couple of weeks. And but they have to make decisions about which departments and agencies get prioritized, which employees are essential, which aren't. And that happens when you get into a shutdown posture. So the administration is acting in a way that former presidencies, and I've been through a number of these shutdowns, and administrations have acted, and that is they're going to take care as much as they can of their priorities. And those might, in some cases, run, at odds with what the Democrats want to see happen. But they are being put into this position because of the shutdown, and that's why, again, it's so important that 5 Democrats cross the aisle, show a little backbone and some courage, and vote with us to get the government open.
Are you solid? Do you think your side is solid?
I think our side is believes profoundly that what the Democrats are doing here is entirely wrong. I mean, we have members like nobody benefits from a shutdown. I mean, all of us, and having been through a few of these, as I said, it is a really, really, in fact, Chuck Schumer described it a few years ago as political idiocy to shut down the government, to take it hostage, to try and achieve other political objectives. And that's essentially what they've done here. So, again, nobody wins in this scenario, and our members understand that, our senators, that is, and I think that hopefully there'll be enough Democrat senators that understand it soon to give us the votes to get the government open.
Look, when the Freedom Caucus was doing this and Ted Cruz was doing this, I understand when they go up to President Obama and say, you have to get rid of Obamacare, we're shutting down the government, they did, to simplify it. I thought, well, nice meaning, bad strategy. And your strategy is let's continue to fund the government, and we'll guarantee to talk about these subsidies because nobody wants people to suffer unnecessarily when it comes to health care. We've got to be smart about it, but negotiations will start. It does seem like you guys have the upper hand, but in this Reuters poll, it blamed 67% blame Republicans for the shutdown and 63% blame Democrats, 63% blame Trump, but they always blame Trump. So what are your thoughts about losing the perception race, according to one poll, by 4 points?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, I've said this before, but nobody wins in a shutdown, and I think the American people are they're scratching their heads and rolling their eyes and going, why can't you guys? What's the point of all this? And why is the government shut down in the first place? Which is a fair question. So, but I think to your broader point, Brian, if we, depending on what happens in the next week or two here, and I'm hoping that the Democrats will come around and we can figure out a path forward. Having a government shut down for an extended period of time penalizes a lot of people, of course, most directly federal workers. And then you've got that includes Border Patrol and TSA and ATC and, public safety. And there's just a lot of impacts to this that are going to be felt more, I think, acutely here in the near future. And of course, the number one is the military, making sure that that we can defend the country and that our troops are getting paid. So those are all issues that bear on that. And the polling around this, I think, is always confusing because a lot of it depends on how you ask the question. Mm-hmm. But I think, generally speaking, the American people just want to see their government up and functioning and working. And to your point, when we went back in 2013, obviously there were things Republicans were demanding and trying to add to the equation, and Republicans in that case got blamed. And I just think that it's a no-win situation. But in this circumstance, at least, we have kept this as clean and simple and straightforward as possible. It's a funding resolution doesn't do anything, has no partisan riders, no policy gimmicks or anything on it. It's just a straightforward way to keep the government funded until we can get the appropriations process done.
And the thing is, you've earned the perception that like you're just not a flamethrower. You're very level-headed. So people want to try to paint you in a certain way. It's just not working. And therefore, they like to just go to Trump. But this is really between leadership in Congress. The other thing you're passionate about, you're an ag state, and you see that China just stopped buying our soybeans. And farmers had an incredible crop, and they got nowhere to sell it. They're buying it more expensive from other countries, as well as deciding to keep rare earth from us out of nowhere when I thought we were making progress on these trade talks. What do you think the message is that we're supposed to absorb from China?
I think on that front, Brian, clearly, and you're absolutely right. I mean, farmers in my state, 60% of our soybeans are exported mostly to China. China now is shut down in this sort of trade war with the U.S., and I'm hoping that when the administration enters into the talks with China that they can get that opened up again. Because in the end, what you want is markets. You want more demand for your product. You want to be able to sell it at the marketplace, not get a government
How much time
payment.
do you have before it starts going south and it becomes used? When you can't sell it, how long does it have before it expires?
It's happening now. I mean, our crop's coming in. The harvest is soybeans. In the case of soybeans, largely I haven't been back in the state, but probably largely done. Corn's coming in, and they've got no place to go with it. The market's not there. China's buying from Brazil and Argentina and places like that. And so I've emphasized with the White House, they have got to, when they do these trade deals, they have got to focus on, prioritize, and make sure that they're opening ag markets, because our farmers out there in this country they're in a world of hurt economically already with low commodity prices and high input costs. And if you don't have a place to sell, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So there's a lot of conversations about how to help by compensating in the near term, and those with the White House and Department of Agriculture and my colleagues here in the House and the Senate, there are discussions about that. But that is a very imperfect situation relative to getting markets opened up. So I'm hoping the administration will be successful. I think our farmers are obviously patient. They want to see the president succeed, and they want to see him get reciprocity with countries that have been taking advantage of us. But, obviously getting some of these more markets open to American agriculture is a huge priority.
Yeah, and I just don't know what happened or why they felt as though they bring us through 3 rounds of very detailed talks and just say, okay, we're going to withhold these things and stop buying this. Here's what Kevin Husted said, cut 47.
But make no mistake, they took a classic Chinese bullying move against us last week, where they basically told the press that they were going to have this embargo practically on rare earths, which is something that would be a challenge for our economy. And they wouldn't even pick up phone calls from people in the administration that are saying, hey, wait, what's up with this? We were about to meet with President Xi. And so it was a classic attempt to bully, and it just isn't going to work against this team.
But they usually have a strategy. They're not usually rash players. So I just don't know if you could see around the bend and I can't.
Well, I think, Brian, you're right. China always plays a long game.
Right.
We think we're in this country, we're kind of day traders relative to the way they view the world. Everything for them is a long-term strategic. But I do think that their economy has struggles, and I think they will pay much far greater economic price from a trade war with the U.S. So we do have a lot of leverage, and the administration needs to use it in the right way. I've just emphasized that they need to use it to get deals for ag, because ag is such a key part of our economy. We not only feed our country, but we feed the world, and you want to make sure people can continue to farm.
Are you for the bailing out for just a general term of Argentina?
Argentina, of course, is China's got a tremendous amount of influence in Argentina, and they are an important ally in a critical region of the world, and so there would probably likely be some ripple effects if their economic situation worsens. So I think the administration is doing what they think they need to do to make sure that countries that we have relationships with, that there's no risk that the U.S. economy would be harmed. And so when, the U.S. has done assistance like this with other countries when there are economic conditions that they think are going to bear on and impact the U.S. But, obviously, it's a decision the administration made. I think my understanding is it's a currency swap of some sort, so it's not like a direct assistance, but I think it's an attempt to try and keep them economically viable.
Right, have a conservative win, and then in turn get China's influence out of that country.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And
Exactly
Senator,
right.
just before I let you go full circle, do you think this is going to last to the end of the week? Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel?
I think that the Democrats are intent on having a very big rally on Saturday
and after
here
that,
in Washington, with all these outside groups that are coming to town. And but I do think there are. I mean, as I said, organically, there are more and more senators on their side of the aisle. They're talking to folks on our side of the aisle. And I think everybody's sort of looking for a way out of this, but it really is very simple. I mean, just open up the government, and then we'll have this conversation. And I promised, I've said to these Democrats and others already, you want to vote on your thing? We can guarantee you a vote. I mean, we'll make sure that happens. I can't guarantee you an outcome. I can't guarantee you're going to win. And they want us to guarantee that they're going to win on their vote. And that's not something we can offer them. I can't, but I can ensure that they have a process whereby these issues they care about get addressed. But you just can't do it in the context of the federal government being held hostage.
Senator Jon Thune, keeping his cool despite day 16 of a shutdown. Appreciate it, Senator. Always appreciate it. So is our audience that you explain everything that's going on to us.
Thanks, Brian. Good talking to you as always.
You got it.